All right, so we're back. Let's do a quick review of kind of what we covered real quick, and then we'll jump more into it. So, as of right now, we've covered. Oh, you can collapse this, by the way. This is since it's your comment block. You can do that with more sections of code, but just for now. So we've covered the variable types. It just says last variable type here, but we did do all of them. So integer, string, float, double, character, and we did cover formatting prints and formatted printing. So I've added another one in here though, taking in user input for each type. I realize we haven't brushed up too much on that, and it will be very useful for us. So we'll get into that. And then order of operations. So multiplication, division, adding and subtracting, blah, blah, blah. So let's go ahead, we'll shrink this down again, and we can eliminate some of this stuff. I guess we'll leave these formatting print statements here. We don't need care anymore. And you know, actually, it might just be easier for us to start a new Java project or new testing. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just make testing 4. Again, this isn't really like how you would do it. You would just make a new project, but for our cases, we're not really too concerned. And we'll just do that. So we'll kind of comment or copy the same comment block up here. Throw that in there. Call this testing 4.java, and we can eliminate these two guys since this is just for this new one that we've made. Cool. We don't have any review this time around, so we're just going to go straight into it. And we can start again. So public static void main string args parentheses. Let's go ahead and import our scanner variable. Import java.util.scanner, capital S. And we can talk about importing variables. So let's set up our scanner variable. Use a different naming convention this time. Even though I like to use user input, I want you guys to kind of get familiar with variable naming and how it's effective. So we can just say like param reader or something like that. So it's another way to say we're reading an input from the user and we're going to be using it at some way, shape, or form in the future. So we then have to declare that as a new scanner variable. And then we have to declare that scanner type of system.in. So, whoops. There we go. Okay. So let's say we want to read in from the user. So if I run this right now, what's going to happen? It's going to run and nothing's going to happen. We don't have anything. It doesn't ask for anything, right? Now, if we were to say param reader dot next line, right? What is this doing? So next line takes in user input and waits for a return carriage to be pressed. So enter key. So it's basically saying, hey, you know, you can enter as much as you want as far as in the form of a string, kind of like with print line, print ln. It's expecting everything, and then it's expecting to put out whatever you've given it, and then it's going to follow with a return carriage and a new line character. Sorry, new line character, then return carriage, right? Because the return carriage will bring it back to the front. New line character will bring it down one. So this is going to take in the user input. However, we still haven't told it to do anything. So if we run this right now, you'll see that it's going to accept input. This is input into the scanner variable, but it's not going to do anything with it, right? We haven't told even the user to enter anything, and we haven't done anything with that user input. So let's say I wanted to say, you know, sysout, enter something for the scanner to read in. And then since it's on print ln, it's going to do a new line. It's going to wait for us to do that. And then we could say sysout, you've entered the following line, and then we can do a concatenation, and we can do param reader dot what would we want? Next. I think it's next. Let's try that and make sure. This is a test. Enter something for the scanner to read in, and then it did not work. So something happened here. So, oh, okay. So I see the error of my ways. This is a good opportunity for me to explain to you guys. So what happened here was this is going to take in user input. And now this is also going to take in user input of any type and not return a new line. So it was waiting for this input. It did nothing with this input between here and here. And then it got to the next line and said, okay, I have to put this out, but I'm expecting another input that I'm going to return. So if we eliminate this right now, save that and run it again. So enter length, so this is a test again. It's going to say this because this was the next thing that I entered, not the whole thing. So I can continue to do plus param reader.next, and you'll see that when I do this again, this is a test. It's going to give me this and is. So it's gonna next is just gonna keep iterating through each of the saved variables in the scanner buffer variable. So if I wanted to print out that whole line that I entered, kind of goes back to, oh, sorry. It kind of goes back to that whole next line. So whatever I enter now will appear there. So, and I know I always said the code reads from left to right, but the first thing it's hitting when you're reading in the left is this print line statement. So it has taken into consideration variables it's going to need. If it's a formatted print statement, it has taken things that it's going to need from the user. All these things taken into consideration, even though it's going from left to right. It's still going to do it in normal order of operations, but in this case, in a print statement, it will read everything. It will start here. It'll hit this parentheses. It'll say, okay, taking everything into this consideration before I iterate through this. So this is a test finally. And you'll see it printed out, this is a test finally. And all I had to do was next line because it waited to see, I want to keep reading, this next line, keep reading until I see the return key was pressed, in which case it was right here. So it printed everything here. Whereas if I just did next, it was going to give me this. So I've kind of run out of time. I just want to talk real quickly about trying to output that same thing, param reader, with nothing in it. So we've already exhausted everything that was in the scanner buffer. So if I run this again, right, it's going to just take in brand new input at that point. So because I don't have anything in there. So in this case, we can do, this is a test one, and now it didn't ask me for anything, right? I haven't told since system printout to give me anything in between here. So it's just waiting for more input. So we can just say, you know, test two, this is a test. Now it shouldn't print out anything of this. It should just print out test two. So let's see, we get test two. So you kind of see how this works. It's tricky because there's certain situations where nothing will come out and there's certain situations where more than you expect will come out. It's just going to be something that you have to play with and learn. There are hard set rules and you can read up about it, but like I can think of several iterations of my code where I was expecting it to just output, like I did a test on whatever the user entered, and all of a sudden, because I had already used that output as a test, it didn't allow me to do another comparison later down the line or output it correctly. It would just output whatever came after that. So it's always good, now that you see this, to save whatever you want in the form of a variable and then deal in that terms of that variable. So whatever I wanted, user input.next, let me do the semicolon here. I can store this into string user entered string. So this is just going to say, hey, storing this variable, this parameter read.next, whatever they use, and then I can sys out that user entered string. This is a very long variable name. It's not normal convention, but just for practicality for you guys to be able to read this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.